There are some events and stories so bizarre and horrifying that they seem almost impossible to believe. Yet human history is filled with strange, terrifying but true incidents that continue to baffle historians and send chills down the spine. In today's video, we delve into some of the most shocking stories from history, events that you may have never heard of, but which are absolutely real. Our first story takes us back to the Renaissance period, a time known for its cultural and artistic rebirth in Italy. This era, which saw the rise of legends like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, was a golden age for art and culture in Europe. Italy was the heart of the Renaissance, influencing the entire Western world. However, amid this cultural brilliance, a horrifying event unfolded that history books seldom discuss. In 1494, a deadly disease swept across Europe, transforming people into what we might now describe as real-life zombies. This disease, syphilis, was particularly gruesome. It slowly ate away at a person's face and head, causing their flesh to rot. Imagine walking through the streets and seeing people with no noses, missing ears, or flesh simply falling off their faces. This terrifying sight was shockingly common in regions like France and Italy during this time. Since antibiotics hadn't yet been discovered, syphilis was often fatal. The disease spread primarily through sexual contact and was especially rampant among prostitutes, leading some to believe it was divine punishment for immoral behavior. It wasn't until centuries later, in 1906, that the first effective treatment for syphilis was discovered. This medical breakthrough finally put an end to what had once been one of the most frightening diseases in Europe. Moving to the United States, we have the story of one of America's first and most notorious serial killers, H. Holmes. Holmes, born in 1861 in New Hampshire, is believed to have murdered as many as 200 people. From a young age, Holmes was fascinated by death and skeletons. This dark obsession only grew stronger as he entered adulthood. Holmes was a bright student and eventually earned a medical degree from the University of Michigan. But his real infamy began when he moved to Chicago in the late 1800s. In 1886, Holmes took over a pharmacy in Chicago and used the profits to fund the construction of a hotel. This was no ordinary hotel, however. Holmes meticulously designed the building with a horrifying purpose. The doors of the hotel could only be opened from the outside, and there were no windows, making escape virtually impossible. The rooms were soundproofed, and beneath the hotel, a network of basements existed where Holmes would dispose of his victims' bodies. Known as the Murder Castle, this hotel became the site of his grisly killings. In 1893, Chicago hosted a massive exhibition that drew thousands of tourists from across America, many of them young women. Holmes took full advantage of this, advertising his hotel to lure in unsuspecting guests. But once inside, many never left. It was said that up to 200 people vanished after checking in. Eventually, locals began to grow suspicious as more and more tourists disappeared. In 1894, after years of evading the law, Holmes was finally arrested. He confessed to his murders, stating that killing was something he enjoyed and couldn't control. In 1896, Holmes was executed for his crimes, but his legacy as one of history's most disturbing killers lives on. Next, we explore one of the greatest mysteries in history, the death of Alexander the Great. Alexander, renowned as one of the most successful military leaders in history, conquered half of the known world by the time he was just 32 years old. His death, however, has remained a puzzle for centuries. Some claim that Alexander was poisoned, others believe he succumbed to malaria or typhoid. But recent research presents an even more chilling theory. Alexander may not have died at all, but was buried alive. According to this new theory, Alexander suffered from a rare neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome. This condition causes paralysis, which could have been mistaken for death in ancient times. Back then, doctors didn't check for a pulse to confirm death, but relied on whether the person was breathing. Since Guillain-Barré syndrome can slow breathing to the point that it is almost undetectable, it is possible that Alexander was still alive when he was laid to rest in his tomb. If true, this means one of history's greatest conquerors may have been buried while still conscious. Another tragic and haunting story from the annals of history is that of the Roman city of Pompei. In 79 AD, the citizens of Pompei were going about their daily lives when disaster struck. Mount Vesuvius, a nearby volcano, erupted with such force that it buried the entire city in ash and lava within hours. Around 16,000 people suffocated from the ash, their bodies perfectly preserved for centuries. While many know of Pompei, few are aware of the even more tragic fate that befell the nearby town of Herculanum. Just a few miles away from Pompei, Herculanum was a resort town where wealthy Romans went to relax. When Vesuvius erupted, it sent pyroclastic flows, deadly clouds of superheated gas and ash, racing toward the town. This gas, moving at 450 miles per hour and reaching temperatures of 1,000 degrees, instantly vaporized everything in its path. The people of Herculanum didn't stand a chance. Within seconds, their skin boiled, and their skulls burst from the heat. The town and its people were obliterated, frozen in time by the volcanic disaster. Centuries later, when the bodies were discovered, archaeologists were shocked by the extent of the devastation. Our final story takes us to the city of Nanking in China, where one of the most horrifying atrocities in human history took place. In December 1937, during the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Japanese army captured Nanking, then the capital of China. What followed was a 6-week-long massacre that would go down in history as the Rape of Nanking. Over 300,000 Chinese civilians were brutally murdered during this period. Men, women, children, and the elderly were not spared. Women were raped and tortured before being killed, and entire families were wiped out. The Japanese soldiers committed unspeakable atrocities, with historians calling it one of the darkest chapters in human history. The sheer scale of the brutality is difficult to comprehend, and it remains a haunting reminder of the capacity for human cruelty during times of war. These stories are just a few examples of the countless mysteries and tragedies that are hidden in the depths of history. While many of these events may seem like something out of a horror movie, they are all too real. There are still many more mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and as we continue to dig into the past, who knows what other dark secrets we will find. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from history. We have many more mysteries and hidden truths to uncover, so stay tuned for future videos. Until next time, take care.